I am the architect. I created the matrix. I am the architect. I created the matrix.
Shall we play a game?
I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
Good morning and welcome to Web Talk with Bob. I'm giving you today's podcast from Rancho Mirage, California, where it's 80 degrees and sunny. Do you need a good icebreaker? A good opening question for networking, for social gatherings, for parties? Well, I have one for you that I have now tried on several occasions, and it works. It's a simple question. I look the person in the eye, and then I say to them, "What's your story?" Now, on the surface, it seems like a question that has no answer. But I'm surprised how many people will repeat to me, they'll say, "What's my story?" Then they think for a minute, and then, believe it or not, they tell me their story. Now, I've done this on two occasions at two social networking sites here in Rancho Mirage, social networking activities here in Rancho Mirage, California. And I will tell you two of the stories that I heard. I met this one gentleman who was about 5'11", about 175 pounds, very good condition. I played a few holes of golf with him. And then I said to him, his name was John. I said, "John, what's your story?" And he said, "What's my story? Let me tell you. I was on Dwight Eisenhower's staff in World War II. That's right, he wasn't a young person, but he was fit and looked 20 years younger than he actually was. He said, I helped Dwight Eisenhower plan the invasion of Europe in World War II. I helped plan the Normandy invasion." And he went on to tell me some details about the planning and what it was like. I listened intently. It was an interesting and fascinating experience. And it all started when I just simply said to him, "John, what's your story?" A few nights ago, I was at a dinner party with 300 of my best friends. No, it was just a general gathering at one of the local clubs here in Rancho Mirage, California. I was seated at a table with my wife and three other couples, none of which we had known before. After a few minutes of small talk, I looked to the man on my right, and I simply said to him, his name was Jack, I said, "Jack, what's your story?" And Jack said, "What's my story? Let me think for a minute. Well, let me tell you. I graduated from Stanford, but I'm not very bright. I spent all my life selling valves. But here's how I got into Stanford. Years and years ago, my great-grandfather was a professor in Wisconsin somewhere. And he got a call from somebody named Leland Stanford, who was starting a university here in California, in Palo Alto, a university that you may have heard of, Stanford University. And he asked my great-grandfather to come out and help him in this new venture. And my great-grandfather did. And guess what? All my uncles, all my father, my mother, my cousins, everybody that I know are now Stanford graduates. None of us are very smart. None of us could probably get into Stanford on our own. But we got in because of a long, long legacy started by my great-grandfather. It was a fascinating story. There were two other people at our table who had heard me ask him that question, ask Jack the question, and they were ready for me to ask them the same question, and they volunteered. But we heard some fascinating stories that night from people about their life, but not just about their life, it's about how they summarized their life. What did they start with? Did their story start with their family? Did it start with their career? Did it start with their education? Did it start with their travels? That's the fascinating part, is how people describe what they have done. What is their story? Everyone has a story, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or approaching 90, as in the case of my friend from World War II. And listening to their stories is fascinating. I learned a couple of things from this question. First, people are willing to tell you their story. They want to tell you their story. Even the shyest person has done some significant things. And if you ask them what their story is, and then just shut up, just be quiet, and let them respond, you'll be surprised at their story. You'll be fascinated by not only what they tell you, but how they tell you. And at the end, I guarantee you, you will have made a friend. People like to talk about themselves, not necessarily from an egotistical standpoint, but it's their way of sharing. You, as the listener, learn a lot from this experience. So remember, if you are at a social networking event, a party, and you want an icebreaker that really is an open-ended question, try, what's your story? And then listen. It may take a few seconds. Give the person a chance to respond. You will be the beneficiary of their story. And that's Web Talk with Bob today. Welcome to this day's podcast. Hope you're having a great day. Tune in. Keep listening. I hope that we are sending you positive vibrations and great energy from Rancho Mirage, California. Remember, follow me on Twitter. Web Talk with Bob signing off. This is Bob Sherwood. Have a great day.
I am the architect. I created the matrix.
Shall we play a game?
I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly